We're back with Aaron Day. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm okay.
I have now that I'm drinking my second beer of 2025, I feel like I recovered because near Liberland they like to brew their own hard liquor, and I can tell you it's very hard. So no, I'm feeling we are doing well. We had a great stream already, and with you here now, I feel like it's going to be even better. So I'm looking forward to the conversation, and in a way, I always allow the people to choose their own topic. And with you, it's going to be no different. We might talk a little bit CBDC. Maybe you want to talk about the new regulations in the EU that's made Stripe send out a tweet on the 1st of January, how all Bitcoins are going to be registered because the COVID loans of the EU need to be paid back with carbon tax. But let's see where it goes.
Okay. Whoever could have predicted something like that?
Yeah, we didn't see that coming.
Yeah. Great. Well, I mean, there's certainly a lot to discuss. I mean, as you mentioned at the outset, I mean, last year was a really interesting year. I mean, in many ways, it was. Well, I guess I'll take a step back. Starting in 2022, I kind of realized coming out of COVID that CBDCs were probably the biggest single threat to human liberty. And this came about through kind of a long process. I used to be a really hardcore liberty activist in New Hampshire, ended up getting involved in $280 million worth of lawsuits. I was the defendant, so I got an advanced preview of lawfare. And so I kind of exited the activism space and fought this lawsuit for 5.5 years, finally resolving it. And that's a separate story for a different day. And wasn't planning on getting back involved necessarily into activism, but I saw after COVID tyranny that people at the intersection of liberty and crypto were very specifically being targeted, and friends of mine. So Ian Freeman, who is the co-host of Free Talk Live, who's one of the reasons I moved to New Hampshire as part of the Free State Project, was targeted by the federal government, was raided. And I mean, at the time, he wasn't even in prison. But, you know, what was going on with his situation and the fact that Jeremy Kauffman, another Free Stater who created library.com, had been targeted by the SEC for 5 years, I wanted to look into, well, why is this happening? Why is this specifically occurring with people at this intersection of liberty and crypto? And that's when I discovered how far along CBDCs were. Because, I mean, certainly I'd heard about CBDCs and was tracking them generally, but I didn't realize that we had gone from basically 35 countries researching them in 2020 to today, where 134 countries representing 98% of the global GDP are at some stage of researching or rolling out. I mean, 11 countries have rolled out CBDCs. There are now more CBDC accounts than crypto accounts. And what I found as I was researching this is that the reason that they were targeting people in the Liberty crypto sphere was to block off competition, so that when they roll out a CBDC, people have no alternative. And that is exactly why they were going after people like Ian and others. And so I wrote this book called The Final Countdown, and I really wanted to do everything I can to warn people. So I even ran for president, not to actually win, but to elevate this issue, specifically in the Republican primary. I mean, I'm a libertarian, but I wanted a platform. I wanted to try to get involved in the debates and try to elevate this issue because I was so alarmed by it. And in that process, I talked to Vivek Ramaswamy. He read my book. He actually came out and he pushed Trump to come out against CBDCs in my home state of New Hampshire before the primary, in part due to my incessant hounding him on this issue. Not that means anything, by the way. I think that in many respects, Trump saying he's against CBDCs probably gives people a false sense of security. Okay. But as this is going on, so Ian, he has me on Free Talk Live. We show up for his sentencing hearing. My wife and I show up for his sentencing hearing. And I actually reached out to Roger Ver because Roger learned about Bitcoin from Ian Freeman from Free Talk Live. And so I said, hey, Roger, you have 750,000 followers on X. Would you mind shooting out this message, trying to get people, because we wanted to pack the courtroom and show support for Ian. And so he did. And again, remember, and I'm now at this point, I'm going around the country. I've been to 22 states. I'm finding out that people know nothing about CBDCs. And so I'm trying to raise the alarm bells. But like, you could measure my presentation by which new person that I know was thrown in prison. Like, it became really challenging to do the presentation. I mean, I remember the very first time I gave the presentation, Aria DeMezzo, who was one of the Crypto Six, she had to check into prison the next Tuesday after PorcFest. So she was trying to find someone to take her golden retriever. So that was my first talk. And then every other time I do these talks, well, 7.5 months after Roger, promotes Ian's event, he gets arrested in Spain. And so, and now is facing 109 years. And I'm sure you've already talked about that, since this is the theme of this. And so immediately when Roger was arrested in Spain, I'm like, look, the whole thing I've been doing is trying to warn people about this. I knew this wasn't just a typical extortion from the IRS to try to get money out of them. Yeah. I knew that this was something much more than that. And so, and
that's maybe why they also did it in Spain. I don't know how often Roger is in the United States. So maybe he's probably never there.
It's the same country where John McAfee was arrested. And
if they got a good connection with Spain, they can just wait until he visits Spain once, and then they take it, and then it's waiting for that. And maybe they even host a conference and invite them themselves to get him to Spain. Things like that can happen.
Continue, Aaron.
So he had just published Hijacking Bitcoin, and I interviewed him about it. And so it was like three weeks after that, coincidentally, for timing, that he was arrested in Spain. But I mean, to that point, I was talking to him before this, and he was in Asia, and then he was in UAE. He wasn't scheduled to speak in Spain. So I think people have to understand. I mean, think about it. It's law enforcement. There's a lot of work and a lot of planning that had to go into knowing that he was going to be in Spain, particularly given the fact that he wasn't even speaking at the conference. So, I mean, this was a highly organized situation where he was clearly heavily surveilled. And so when he was originally arrested, I was actually afraid for his life, because we know McAfee died.
Yes.
McAfee spent 8 months fighting extradition, lost his final appeal, and then 24 hours later, he ended up dead under whatever we'll just call it mysterious circumstances. And so I was like, nobody's talking about this. It actually took several days from the time he was arrested until it was even announced that he was in prison. And I remember I had been texting him, DMing him, and he's usually really responsive. And I hadn't heard back for a few days. I'm like, this is really weird. Maybe he's traveling. And then all of a sudden this, press release hits. And so, then I've been spending a lot of time on that, ever since. Although when he got out on bail, I thought, well, maybe this is just extortion and his lawyers will resolve it. And then 1 month goes by, 2 months goes by, 3 months goes by. And during this whole process, FTX settles billions of dollars of tax liability for pennies on the dollar. Michael Saylor settles his tax issues for whatever, $40 million in DC. And so I'm like, wow, this is completely political. And this is intended to have a chilling effect, not only on hijacking Bitcoin, but on what Roger's recent, discussion about Zano and privacy coins and everything else. And they are trying to make an example of them. And through this process, I met somebody that worked at the IRS who said that the IRS, their number one hiring area with these 87,000 new IRS agents is crypto enforcement. So literally, if they're successful in this completely manufactured case against Roger, it will set loose thousands of additional IRS agents to go after everybody else. And so that has turned into a focus of mine, one of the focuses, which is to really try to understand what is going on with Roger's case.
Let me ask you, do you think Trump is going to make a difference in that? Is that going to be 4 years of buying time until it's going wrong anyway, or?
So I'm really conflicted on this. I'm going to be completely honest with you about all of this, which is that Trump's crypto policy is horrible. I think there's going to be more damage done from a crypto perspective.
I read it as confiscation of ETFs. That's basically what's going to happen.
Well, it's confiscation of ETFs, but then this Bitcoin strategic reserve. And then if you read the bills that this Senator Cynthia Lummis has drafted, it's all about banning algorithmic stablecoins and putting a structure in place so that only large U.S. banks can issue stablecoins. While a bank issued a JP Morgan coin is indistinguishable from a CBDC. And this is the Republican strategy for this. And so everybody's cheering this on. I just saw a picture of Michael Saylor standing next to Eric Trump. And so the problem with this is, how do you message this? Because, okay, on the one hand, Roger's Bitcoin Jesus, but on the other hand, he's just exposed in this hijacking Bitcoin book, which, by the way, nobody's refuted yet. But all of the people surrounding Trump don't like Roger, or either they don't like Roger, or they are, they'd kill their own kids to pump their bags. And so the issue with this is, so from a strategy perspective, do you make this about lawfare and about how can America be the Bitcoin hub if they're trying to crucify Bitcoin Jesus, or do you go the next level?
How big are the walls you want to build? How big are the walls you want to build, and who can escape those walls and not come back? You are gonna, if that is the story you are gonna maintain, then it's gonna be insect burgers for those who are still within those walls. Well,
I'm not good at that. The only thing I'm good at is exposing the truth. And I think the fact that the truth, you can't just say, well, Roger's here because of lawfare and not explain why. And what the law says.
No, of course, yes. I'm glad we got you on.
So my position, but I mean, if you've been following me at all, I don't really pull any punches at all. And by the way, nor does Roger. So Roger did that Tucker Carlson interview, which I thought was classic Roger. And I'd like to see more of that. I'd like to see Roger debate Michael Saylor on Joe Rogan. And even so, but to answer your question, this is the challenge with this. So we know Trump wants to be pro-crypto and pro-Bitcoin. How do we get him to focus his attention on Roger's case? Because there are similarities, right? Trump has been harassed by the IRS. Trump has been a victim of lawfare. There are a whole bunch of things that are actually very similar, but yet his policy is kind of counter to what is not wise policy once you read hijacking Bitcoin. The fact that he's pushing and since it's now the 16th anniversary of Bitcoin, he's pushing a slow, expensive.
We are celebrating the 16th anniversary of the Genesis block today.
Yes, of the Genesis block, and now it's hijacked, slow and expensive surveillance digital gold. And so
in some iterations of it, Aaron, there is a hope. There is people working. That's why it's this year the first time that we do the Genesis block anniversary, not the Bitcoin anniversary, because it's not just Bitcoin that started 16 years ago, and it's a marathon, not a sprint. All those cliches that I can mention, it's an uphill battle. Also that, and it's difficult, and yeah,
But I guess my point is Cynthia Lummis is the strategic reserve is BTC. And Eric Trump is standing next to Michael Saylor. And so I agree with you that Bitcoin Cash obviously is what this was supposed to be and is what the white paper described. And now here we are, Roger having gone through this whole situation where that whole the whole fork war thing, what a big element of that was what? Well, it was propaganda and censorship. Well, what do you call being stuck in Spain for 7 months with essentially a gag order facing life in prison? But that's the ultimate propaganda and censorship. So how do we elevate this and get people to understand all of this in a way where so that Trump is friendly to Roger about this and is willing to issue a preemptive pardon? That's the challenge. And a lot of people are working on that. But it's not easy. I mean, it's tough for me because I can't say that I was a big fan of Trump the first time. So,
I released this video that's called Trump is not going to save you, or it's not what it's called, but that's my summary. Trump is not going to save you. And even if he could, it's only be for 4 years, So I believe that the current system we live in that Michael said with the maritime law, how your parents are forced to declare you at the government after birth. It's 180 years old, and time caught up, and we can do better than what we got. It's not gonna be easy per se, but they're gonna make it increasingly difficult. That's more what I'm worried about, because this freedom that we have experienced since the creation of the internet is being contained, for example, by protecting everybody against whatever, so that you soon probably will have to give your digital ID before you can log into your X account, so that you're sure not a minor, and those things. The creation of crypto, a lot of people call out all the scams, and I think all the scams are a good thing, because at every instance people learn from that, and it's their voluntary participation in a way. So a lot of scams are out there, that's how it is, but the biggest scam is all those debt currencies that require violence to have any value, because we don't manage to build trust ourselves. We need that violence still, and how to, I don't know. I'm just talking. I had my second beer now, so.
Well, I hope we do a better job of calling out scams, because it seems like a lot of times when it's not polite to call out scams. I mean, FTX was obviously a scam, but when you call these things out, people are like, oh, be quiet, you're hurting somebody's bags or whatever. And it's like, if we don't self-regulate, then inevitably the big winners in this end up being the state and lawyers, which seems to be the case. I hope we can come up with a better way of self-regulating and calling out scams.
Yeah, but that's because we choose to use still these old-fashioned systems like FTX. There are different solutions also to that. So we ask to be scammed all the time, and here is my passport. What's his name? Sam Bankman-Fried. So I am allowed to trade my crypto coins. If you would use a blockchain that can scale to a global level of usage, you could interchange value with each other without the FTX. So the solutions are available. It's just how we get enough critical mass to use it.
It's how to get critical mass, but part of what I've done is now I've gone to 24 different states doing 4-hour workshops, and I teach people about that CBDC threat for the first half, and then I onboard people to crypto, gold, and silver in the back half, and teach them how to live on these things.
I love your stablecoin idea about the gold backs.
Yeah,
that's great. That's great.
Yeah, and that it solves some of the problems that I've had. So I've talked to people all over the country, and so on this issue of adoption. So part of this is that the propaganda and censorship is so strong that people have no knowledge of these things. I mean, I will tell you how bad it is. If you get outside of our echo chamber, and by the way, the people that I'm talking to they're not average people either. I mean, these are people that are awake enough to go and sit through a 4-hour workshop, right? So this isn't even the average person. And so I ask people these like poll questions in the middle of the talk. And so more people have heard of Sam Bankman-Fried than Satoshi Nakamoto. Most people don't know that you could have ever used Bitcoin as a currency. They're not even aware that it's a use case.
Yeah.
They actually only know of it as a speculative investment, and most of them actually have a negative opinion of it as a speculative investment. And so these are people that are, and so so I'm saying this is the overwhelming majority. And actually, when it comes to hijacking Bitcoin, I mean, most people haven't heard of Roger, and they haven't heard of, and most people don't know about the fork war. So we may get into a conversation. Everybody's like, well, the science is settled, and this was determined in 2017. 99.999% of the people have never heard of any of this.
Yes.
And,
Guys,
and so,
Sorry for 1 second. First of all, Mikael raised his hand. Second, I am living now in the countryside of Serbia near Liberland, because I crowdfunded myself into this house. And I heat my house with wood. So I need 2 minutes and I will be gone to burn some wood, and I'll be back. But let's give one hand to Mikael.
Yeah, and Miguel. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm touching on. Someone mentioned something about a gold-backed crypto. There was this one called XBTC or something, and I had all my money in there instead of like trying out this new coin called Ethereum. But in regards to the scam thing, rug pulls. I mean, okay, rug pulls are just like uncalled for, not forgivable. But like things happen though in the network, in the space, right? And there's a lot of projects that have funded contributors and influencers who have lost through scams, for example. And I know this idea is a bit idealistic and it doesn't necessarily scale, but on the way we can find ways to scale, which is like, I've always thought, I don't know how many coin projects have a like reserve of other coins, right? Bitcoin, Doji, so I'm with the Aurora coin. I would love to have a bunch of EFLs and Canada eCoin and Deutsche E-marks, which I do. But I would love to see a self-organizing, altruistic, empathetic, managed, regulated insurance pooling idea stuff that can then be, evolve into like smart contracts and multi-sigs with like many projects have their decentralized autonomous organization, so. But that's the thing with me is like I've always taken it from this angle, almost like there isn't like this regulatory world and this like world where accountants and lawyers have to have things in that they can work with, or they don't know what to do and they'll just say like, well, no, we're not really ready for this. But anyway, so what are y'all's thoughts on that? Like this that's where I'm inspired by, which is like probably on the way to what I have to look it up really quick. What the guest this week, Aaron Day. Sorry, Aaron R. Day. I've been looking up your stuff. What are y'all's thoughts on that? Have any projects like just created community funds and manage them in such a way that they help absorb the scams and kind of build trust over time and is that part of the discussion?
Yeah, just go for it. Just do it.
Sorry guys, I'm back. I don't know what I missed. I cannot give my take.
I'm all for coming up with alternatives. I don't know what those alternatives are, but I think it would be great. I think it is possible, but I've just noticed there's a lot of we talk about that we should self-regulate. But we don't do it. But I think we can do it. That doesn't mean that it's not possible to do it. I don't I don't have any specific ideas, but I do know if you were going to do something like that, obviously projects would need to be validated in order for people to be eligible for that type of insurance. And so that kind of seeing how people participate in these scams, are they going to only participate if it's something that was approved for this kind of community-based insurance model? I don't know. I don't know how to solve. But to me, it almost seems like there's a generational issue here where, and I blame the Federal Reserve and central banking for this, but I think people don't even understand the idea of voluntary exchange where both parties benefit. I mean, I think everything is a Ponzi scheme, which isn't a surprise when money itself is a Ponzi scheme. But I've been watching a lot of this. I recently have been binge watching CoffeeZilla. I don't know if you guys have watched any of his stuff, and it's just this whole rise of influencers, where influencers who know nothing, have no domain expertise whatsoever in crypto. There's no reason why a crypto project would be good, bad, or indifferent based on their endorsement of it. These people do multiple rug pulls, one after another, and it's almost like one of these things where they're revered, where it's it's just assumed you're going to do a rug pull. Like it's almost idolized where okay, well, we'll have that again. And the aspiration is to become an influencer who does a rug pull. It's a really weird cultural dynamic. But I mean, those things aside, and Hawk Coin and everything else, I mean, I think the big elephant in the room is Tether. Like what I worry about moving forward is, I mean, I can see Tether blowing up And then that takes down the rest of the crypto market. And that gives the government the excuse to come in and say, oh, well, we need to more tightly regulate this. Only bank issued CBDCs. You have to register all your decentralized crypto, no self-custody wallets. And it's like, it's a train wreck in slow motion. And in that regard, what do we see going on? This guy, Howard Lutnick, who is the latest investor in Tether and who manages the funds for Tether, whatever that means, is now going to be Trump's commerce secretary. So one other alternative is Tether blows up, but it's too big to fail, and it kind of gets merged in as a de facto CBDC. And so I'm working on an article about this. So
we had Joel Valenzuela earlier on the show, who mentioned Tether also. And he said, I forgot the exact way of how he described it, but to give broader context, he said, like, if the crash happens slow enough, the damage will not be too great. You know, if it happens too fast, then all of crypto can get hurt for several years from that. But if it's just a slow train wreck, or how to explain it in the right way, then maybe we can just overcome it. We will cut all the highlight videos, and they will be available on YouTube. And Joel can say it for himself a lot better. But he mentioned it also.
I think it would be great if it was slow, but that's not usually. These things are, gradually then suddenly, right? I hope he's right on that, but I think we have to call this out. So I'm doing an article on this where I'm going to try to explain. It's not going to be short, but not only what's going on with Tether, but also the government policy in the U.S. on crypto, because it is a train wreck. And by the way, and I'm not even blaming Trump on this, but I look at this as an example of where else would Trump have gotten information. And what made me really mad about this is think about the timing of Roger's arrest. So he gets arrested, and then in the middle of all of this, right, he gets arrested 3 months, I think, after the BlackRock ETF launches. And then they have this Bitcoin conference in Nashville in July, where RFK and everybody else is up there. I mean, and I tried to do my part to tweet stuff from hijacking Bitcoin during that, reach a few thousand people. But like, these people have not been exposed. They've never had the opportunity to be exposed. Like, where would RFK have heard about the hijacking of Bitcoin or about Bitcoin Cash? His running mate's Shanahan, his boyfriend, works for a Lightning. Is the CEO of a Lightning company. And so I'm not blaming him, but at the same time, I think these people genuinely have been misinformed. And I'm open to idea. I mean, I'm going to write an article, and I know people that I can probably get to these people, but I'm trying to figure out the best way. How do you condense all of this information in a way that isn't a 300-page book to get attention, to realize, guys, you're making a tragically bad decision? Because frankly, I think it's going to happen in the first 100 days of Trump's administration. He has said he is going to put in place crypto regulations in the first 100 days. And I know there's an executive order drafted for this Bitcoin strategic reserve, which is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard of in terms of what are we going to make it all back in one Ponzi? Why not just go to the roulette table? I mean, it's insane that we're doing this.
Probably should be a state issue as well. Just one thing, isn't there a scenario where they need USDT, like maybe the Treasury, to buy their T-bills to maintain collateral for USDT? Because like the petrodollar is losing its ability to prop up.
That's another argument Joel has made, because he did not fear Tether this cycle. He mentioned he was feared of Tether in 2018 when the stories about illiquidity were equal. For example, Tether is not allowed within the EU anymore for EU citizens since 3 days. And that's how we got to that conversation. And then he mentioned that only in 2018, when he just made the decision to fully focus himself on crypto and have all his income from crypto, then the story of Tether scared him more than today, because Tether has been, according to what he said, and I can see that also, Tether has been buying treasuries from the United States, and they don't mind it. If it's, of course, okay, 80 billion tethers out there today, maybe. So it's not the biggest party of it, but
it's 140. It's 140 billion.
Oh, sorry, it's doubled since my last check.
and we don't know exactly how many treasuries they own because they still haven't been able to conduct an audit. And so the issue with this is why I say they might get bailed out. Yes, we think they're buying treasuries, but what are they buying treasuries with? Coins that they printed out of thin air. They're essentially another version of the Federal Reserve on top of the Federal Reserve. And so you're right. The government might use it as a way of burying the fact that the dollar's dying, right? Like this might be the ultimate next tier that raises this Ponzi to yet another level. And I don't think that's a good thing, right? So in other words, and I'm digging through this and I'm going to try to, I mean, once you find out who's behind them and then you actually track they don't do audits, they only do attestations. And they do this in a way where they're also, iFinix owns Bitfinex. Like it's so scammy that, all of a sudden the money appears from Bitfinex the day before the attestation and then it's out the next day. I mean, this is like, we've seen this movie before.
I know.
And I think it needs to be called out before we get to the, too big to fail stage. And it looks like it's headed that way. That's why I think this Lutnick guy, now he didn't get Treasury. He wanted Treasury, which would have been a disaster. So it's probably better that he's in the Commerce Department. But if we're going to call out scams, we've got to call out Tether. Because by the way, when it blows up, the people behind Tether will make Sam Bankman-Fried look like a priest. It will make this space look so bad and degenerate that no one will want to touch anything in it. And I think we've got to be honest about that.
Yeah. Well, I would be the front of the line in a way to scrape up all the blood from the streets, but
blood on the streets.
So I mentioned it before. There's an e-money token here on Ethereum in Iceland called Monerium. And it is actually an approved European e-money coin. I'm pretty sure they, like, let's say if you give them 10,000 euros, they'll put that into like a low yield, bond account and issue the Monerium. But I'm pretty sure it's one of the only European approved. And actually, there was some. I traded for some Aurora coin for some Monerium through Atomic Dex. I thought that was epic.
Okay.
There's another one.
Hang on a second. I got to just cut in here. I got to go, guys. But it's been great chatting. I hope you all have a good 2025. I'm sure we'll all be, in touch and chatting. Good to see you, Aaron. It's been a little while. Might have to get you back on the show for the 1 year anniversary. To review as the
That'll be fun. Let's do it. Let's do it.
I think that's probably in 3 or 4 months. I think we talked maybe in about April last year. So anyway, we'll see where that ends up at. But anyway, thanks for having me on the show again, guys. And it's been fascinating as always.
Thanks for your time, Jeremy, and best wishes for the upcoming year.
No, absolutely. You too. Keep up the good fight. All right.
All right.
Bye. And I have to say, we have the raffle, of course. There's no name on the wheel yet because I didn't.
Aaron, which coin are we gonna give away on this raffle?
I would say Xano.
It's impossible. But nobody has managed to find a coin today which I don't hold already. So the Xano are gonna be on the wheel. We will put it on one Xano. Usually it's about $10, but $10 was only a couple weeks ago, so I counted that's 10. And we had Amaury also on the chat today. Amaury said chat from eCash. I said that maybe the fungibility aspect of crypto is one that shouldn't be underestimated. One coin should be one coin regardless of its history. And maybe bridge some of that project token onto Xano. I'm sorry, I'm European, so it's Xano in my. Otherwise, everybody thinks that it's with an E. If I say it wrong.
Yeah, I got to be honest.
Okay.
I don't even know what the right. So, is it Zano? Is it Zano? Part of it, I changed it because when I was transcribing my videos, it was putting an X in instead of a Z. I'm not even sure. We should probably.
Xeno, yeah.
We should probably figure out a standardized way of saying it.
Well, maybe we need to have a smaller abbreviation of it and use that, like ZN or something. I don't know. But I've been enjoying your remarks on it because I think that I managed to acquire some at half of the Bitcoin price of today. And taking into account, I've just not been able to stake because this is the same reason why I can't use the Lightning network in a way. My internet cuts out once in a while, or my electricity, and the electricity I can cover with batteries, so the computer keeps on running for a couple seconds longer. But the internet with staking is difficult, apparently. I've not been able to manage, so it is how it is. Maybe a staking pool for Zeno.
Yep.
That would be a nice outlook for 2025. Yeah. I'm thinking which way to go. Where should we be heading?
Well, I have also a question. What makes you excited for Aaron? What makes you excited for the coming year?
So I'm excited about privacy coins, and I actually think that if we can manage to have user-friendly point-of-sale systems, wallets, and a marketplace, that we can actually accelerate adoption of privacy coins. To me, privacy coins are the solution to CBDCs, and I think we've all become aware of how important privacy actually is. I didn't even think about it as much even 6-7 months ago, but obviously we know that they're using chain analysis to track people's transactions, and now we know that the exchanges are working with the government authorities, and so it's very hard to work around the tracking of these transparent blockchains. And so I'm very excited about privacy coins, and I will say there is a growing interest in this. The reason that I came up with the gold-backed privacy stablecoin is that I talked to a lot of merchants, and merchants know fiat currencies are losing value, but they also have no idea how to understand or look at the volatility of crypto prices. To the point where it's like, well, yeah, I really can't use it because, it may be up 100% one month, but it may be down 50% one month, and how am I going to pay my bills? Which is why I thought that the idea of blending the best elements of precious metals with the best elements of crypto in terms of a privacy coin that has low fees is the way to go. And there's huge interest in this. There's a huge backlog of fairly large merchants. And so I think merchant adoption is actually going to be the way we can get this coin into circulation. And so I'm very excited about that. And I am hopeful that, Ross is going to get pardoned. And I do think Roger should be on that list. I hope we can get Roger on that list. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning, it's a lot of weird dynamics around the positioning of where Roger is on hijacking Bitcoin and Trump's policy. So how do you fix that in a way that should make it obvious for Trump to just add him to the list? Usually presidents don't do pardons until the end of their term, but we know that this is different this time. We know he's already got a whole slate of people that he's gonna pardon on day one.
Partially because of the January 6th stuff, of course.
Because of the January 6th stuff, and because of his own lawfare, and because of all of the stuff that he faced directly. So this is a unique opportunity. So I'm not pessimistic about that. It's just that we only have 3 weeks really to try to work through as many avenues as possible to get Roger's story in front of the right people so that we can make this happen. And
what if we just shame Spain indefinitely? Like we just, because they are holding him against, if you look at the case.
Want to ban the tourism in Spain?
Which I have not.
I have to be themselves.
I have not looked into all the details, so I must be fair about that also. But I did watch, for example, the Solari report, and I know that Fitzgerald does do her homework. So if she says she did, and knowing Roger's statements for over the years. He's never been interested in making any of these accusations happen, or the things that he's accused of, he's trying to avoid, and he's been very open about that. So what if we just put so much shame on Spain that nobody ever, I don't know, wants a chorizo sausage in their salad again?
That would be great. And I don't know that much about Spain. I mean, I was in Barcelona in 2019, and I know there were riots going on when we were there at the time. I don't know how we would go about doing it. But what I don't understand is why. I mean, again, they've held him now for over 7 months. And what's weird about this situation is that they could send him a letter and that says, hey, we've canceled the extradition, you're free, or they'll just send cops and arrest him and throw him in prison. Like, that's actually what the process is. And he has no idea day to day which it's going to be. Like, what a horrible way to have to live, but also what a ridiculous process. Like, I don't even know. But the fact that they agreed to do this, because remember, like, in order to be able to kind of catch him and arrest him, that's not a simple process. I mean, even in the United States, to get a police officer in one city to be able to coordinate with the cops in another city to arrest somebody in a different jurisdiction, that's hard enough to do. So the fact that Spain was that willing to arrest him in the first place is not a good sign. So I don't know what can be done there. Roger seems to think Roger has a good lawyer, and he seems to think that he's got a shot. And to be honest, I don't have a lot of insight or knowledge, or I certainly haven't talked to any of his attorneys, so I don't know. I know less about that side of it. But what I do know is every day that this goes on, it's not good, right? I mean, once you're 7 months in, it doesn't. And in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking about, okay, McAfee, 8 months. So my expectation is that Roger will know something one way or another, but Roger could very well be arrested within the next 30 days.
Sure.
Yeah, but Spain is already busy with their like a suicide mission on the tourism industry. If this regulation that makes it almost impossible to go to Spain as a tourist.
What's the regulation?
Yeah, you have to fill in all kinds of paperwork to get into Spain as a tourist. So they're already killing their own industries. So, yeah, I think they don't care if you do like a boycott or whatever.
Well, it's true that. So first of all, with Barcelona, it's in Catalonia, which is their own little Crimea of Spain in a way. These people want to be on their own. Although Crimea doesn't want to be on its own, it wants to be with Russia. But okay, so they have their own little region that likes more autonomy. And then these people complain about the tourists, which is why they do have some regulations installed that require tourists to announce themselves ahead of time, for example.
The whole Spain.
Whole Spain? Yeah, probably could be, but most of these tourists are in a Barcelona location,
Also the south and they're everywhere at the coast.
So this is since half a year or something. I'm not sure.
That's a shame, because when we traveled, there was no hassle. In fact, I made the flight like last minute. It was like found a good deal, and we just decided to go. And because we were in Malta, and we had some extra time, and so that's too bad. I mean, that's the sad thing about Spain. Spain's a beautiful country, except for they seem to hate freedom.
Yeah, well, their royal family has a history of caring about the community so that everybody feels happy. Let's say it like that. We have also some
kind of free state project in Spain. So he went recently to Spain to buy a village. You have these old villages that are abandoned. So this guy is a libertarian. He buys houses, and he wants to start a free commune. Some kind of free state project. But that has to do with the laws there. If so, the if enough libertarians live there, they can vote for their own law enforcement and sheriff. And so if there is a new COVID regulation, then the police would not enforce it because they are elected by the people who live there. Yeah, that's the idea. That's in the north west of Spain. Yeah.
What is there a name for the project, or do you know who's behind it?
Free Commune. Yeah, the guy is Marnix.
Marnix, yeah, what's his name? We can set you up with that if you want to find him out.
Yeah.
He visits the show sometimes and talk about it. And he's doing it a couple years now. I think since COVID, after the COVID, right? He started it. Yeah.
Wow.
No, he's a really hardcore libertarian. Yeah. Yeah. So spin the wheel or wait for other people to join the
We can spin. I don't know how many people are on, but let's just spin it. 3 people.
There are more people on the stream.
1 Zano for the winner. All prizes will be paid after the stream.
Even kijken. Go. Oh yeah, there's another one. Somebody woke up. Okay, we're going to spin the wheel. In 3, 2, 1, and now you're too late. It's going to be... Oh, it's me! I'm the
you
winner.
win a Zano.
Yeah, I won. I think this time I hold it myself.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, at least now you finally got one, because I've been talking to you about Zano for the last 5 months.
Yeah, I think I gave you an address. I won.
Really? Oh, I don't remember that. I don't see that.
Yeah. Well, thanks.
Now, Aaron, I just want to say I'm very glad that I have that I'm using my X account more, because I wasn't so aware of different platforms and different styles, and it wasn't really different before Elon Musk bought X, because it was going in the same direction as all the rest. So it was basically one big mesh of the same, but X does seem to be a little different platform with different content. And I'm glad that after Elon Musk told Disney to go fuck itself, I started to use X more, and that's when I found you in a way. And I'm always very happy when I read your posts or I laugh about that. I don't know, I could find some random thing you tweet. And if I understand what you say, then I know that I'm completely up to date with the current thing in a way, because you make very, very accurate posts on the moment, and I really like how you, I don't know how to say it, but, oh no, my dog just entered the house. Nee. She's not allowed to. I really like your vision of how the world should be. Of course, we are in a completely different situation today, but I support basically everything so far I've seen from you, and keep on doing a great job for the next year. That would be awesome if you manage. And maybe we can meet again in the year, because we make weekly shows. Maybe you have a show. I can share you some of I have a little bit controversial take on Liberland, because I don't believe that we should build a wall to become free, and I believe the nation state is kind of dying in a way, if it's up to me at least. So also a Liberland doesn't bring anything really new to the table. They just try to bring what is already out there in different style. But yeah, thanks for your time and having this conversation with us. Congratulations to 16 years of Genesis blog. And feel free. I mean, we can talk for however long you want, but
You doesn't have to leave now because
no, you don't have to leave. But
we have
1
an
hour
extra
was kind of the aim. So maybe you counted on 1 hour. So that's why.
I can say for a few more minutes, I've got to get ready for another call.
Yeah.
All right.
It's still early here. It's only noon.
Yeah. Well, Joel Valenzuela had to get out of bed at 8. But he is a great guy, and you and me and Joel, we have been unbanked now for. Well, I beat all the two of you, but. We are living unbanked, and that's a great challenge, which not a lot of people understand how difficult it is to manage your finance without the convenience of a bank account. And I am probably the best off of all three of us because I live in Serbia, where I can pay every bill on the corner of the street, and cash is very common here without traceability and all that kind of stuff. So my challenge has always been to not use my passport because I'm Yoshi Livo from Liberland, which means that no country recognizes me in a way. So that has been a bit of the challenge that I put forward, and I'm now very happy that I got my house. I see a very dystopian time ahead. I really don't believe that Trump is going to bring the light, but maybe we can do it ourselves. It's just that, I don't want to say I lost.
Yoshi, maybe Aaron wants to say something.
Oh yeah, sure.
Well, I mean, I agree. Like, if we're planning on a politician solving all of our problems, we're going to be in for a disappointment, regardless of who it is. I mean, that's not the way, right? I mean, we control our own thoughts, our own actions, our own emotions. That we can control. The rest of it, the more of that we give up to other people, the worse the outcome every time.
Yeah.
And so I hope more people wake up to that. On the one hand, I will say, more people were waking up to that last year. And in fact, when I was talking to people about CBDCs, this was a really hot topic in the US. And then Trump came out and said we'd never have a CBDC. And so people stopped worrying about it. And the unfortunate part about this is that as I've studied this more, we already have a CBDC. In America, all of our money is already digital. The Federal Reserve creates the money.
97% at least.
97%, but when the Federal Reserve creates the money, they create it in an Oracle database. I mean, that is a central bank digital currency. And so
yeah.
And it's already programmable, it's already tracked, it can already be censored. And so part of this is, and I'm working on a new book to kind of go beyond what I did in the first book. And what I'm saying is, we have a CBDC, it can get worse, but we also have in America a social credit system, and it's called the 75,000 page, 16 million word tax code. There are incentives and penalties in there that cover every bit of everything that China's social credit system has. The difference is we don't know what our scores are, and we actually don't even know if we're complying with the law until it's too late. There are actually more people in prison in the United States than in China, even though they have 4.2 times the population. And so part of the issue here is, and politicians are great at telling people that, oh, well, we have to stop this big threat that's looming on the horizon, and not acknowledging the fact that we're already in the thing that you are afraid of, right? And it's very hard to communicate that to people. So that's in some respects, the disappointing thing about Trump is that people are giving up more of their power and not taking direct action. That's the only real concern that I have. I don't think that there's any chance that he's going to fix any of this. In fact, I think technocracy is going to flourish under Trump because of how much influence the PayPal mafia has over his administration.
Yeah. Yeah, they are a class of their own, those PayPal mafias, in a way.
Yeah, they are, and you can see it happening now. So all of a sudden, this Cybertruck blows up, and there are a couple of these quote terror attacks. And so, what's the response going to be? Well, everybody needs a digital ID, and boy, we better put in some AI surveillance to keep everybody safe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm very happy with my purchase of this house, and that I've got enough land to grow some vegetables. I'm pumping my own water, all those kind of things. I think I made a good move with that in a way, and I wish it was a lot more, because I really think that with the narrative I try to build, we can. But as long as it doesn't happen, I'm very happy with this house. So that's my 2025 projection. Just enjoy the community around me, and there's so much influence from things that I have no control over, that my impact matters so little. I just need to do my thing and live in the moment, be happy with that. And if it's ever needed or anything, I might when we make the highlight video, Aaron, I will send you the article I published yesterday about this episode, or about my thoughts at the moment. And what happens will happen, and we will see. I hope Trump doesn't get shot, not because I like the action that would occur from it or whatever, but I don't think violence is the option. We are growing in a way with people who are conscious about their existence, let's call it like that, because zombies who are just consuming television are on the decline, if only because of their age. So there is a possibility it might work out,
Yep. There's hope for optimism. It's just not in government.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. Are we going to have a little break? You had an appointment?
Yeah, I should probably get going. I've got to get ready for this next meeting.
All right. Aaron, thanks, man. If you ever write that book and you are looking for a place to talk about it, feel free to contact us, because we will gladly host you as a guest. And we might invite you again for a special occasion, something like that,
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I really enjoyed the talk. I really enjoyed. So
Same.
Thanks.
Thank you. Nice to meet everyone.
All right.
Thanks, Aaron.
Bye.
Yeah, we are going to have a break now for probably an hour.
No, let's wait a second, because first I'm going to kick out kick out the dog of my house and close the door. And
okay,
then,
because I'm going to play some music, and then we see each other in an hour.
no, but we might. Did you already spin the wheel or not?
Yeah, we already spent. I was the winner.
Oh, you was the winner. Yeah. Let me
So
check.
we see each other around 7 o'clock.
No, but I'm not sure that the guest will come.
Okay, but then we let the viewers know if he came or not.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I'm checking out, guys. Actually,
Okay, thank you very
I want
much.
to thank y'all so much for this day. It was better than I could have imagined.
All right, Michael.
It was an honor.
Welcome.
No, you have it all to yourself because you joined. Could have been many more people here.
Okay,
They were
we
all
see each
invited.
other. I'm going to play the music now.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Freedom Radio. Na 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 na